Hello everyone, I'm Alan, also known as McLaren 2009, and today I'm getting back into Derail Valley once again. Found out after I'd already uploaded the video that my stream yesterday had a bit of a mishap, and for some reason or another, basically everything from the moment that I arrived at the at City Southwest all the way up until the end of my stream, my microphone cut out completely. So in spite of the fact that I was pretty much talking non-stop from the moment that the mic cut out, I didn't realize that the mic cut out. And so the only thing you hear is just the sound of the game and the background music. So for that, I have to apologize. I need to be paired to this locomotive. Turn off the train brake, turn on the independent brake. Let's go in here real quick. Cab lights on, even though they don't really do a whole lot. It'll be really cool when the day-night cycle comes in and you actually have like the cab light, the windshield wipers. And it's like the weirdest thing when you look at the posts online and you're like, what do you mean the inside of the DE6 is blue? And then here you are and you're like, oh yeah, it's blue. Those weren't screenshots of the new locomotives. It's just the screenshots of the one we already have. Now, wait, how are you getting on fuel? That would probably be a good thing to know. We're fine. We'll probably make this entire delivery to the harbor with no problems whatsoever. Alright. So, since my mic cut out, nobody viewing this stream has the slightest idea of what I'm going to be working on today. So, right now, the game plan is we are going from the machine factory back to the harbor. In order to do that, we are going to take this cut of tanks, which is probably the only thing that's worth any amount of money. Alright. Don't know why that beeped at me, but whatever. We're gonna take this cut of tanks from the military base, and then we're gonna go over here, and there is a section of intermodal containers also going to the harbor. See here? Barely worth anything. Hardly worth the trip. But it's what we're gonna do because it's the only thing we've got. Actually, as I was, we're gonna take these two. And we know that the tanks are heaviest, so they're gonna go up front. The containers are arguably light, so they're going in the middle, and these are also completely empty, so they're going in the back. Alright. Yeah, usually the buzzer is just for, okay, good, they're all in the B lot. Usually the buzzer is just for if you did something wrong. Alright, so let's have that one up front. Alright. So what we need to do is pull forward And then we're going to go around this junction to get backed into the military base. And then we're going to get backed up to the tanks, which it's pretty handy that that's the way we're headed. Get backed up to the tanks, go out the other direction from the intersection, from the military base, go all the way out to the main entrance to the machine factory, back up to the B lot, get the intermodal cars, get the empty cars, and carry out the plan of the day that way. It'll be a relatively easy trip, but it's something, and it gets me back to a place where there's lots of jobs to work on. So we got to get my 2 locomotives past this switch. Now, we refueled in City Southwest, so we don't have to worry about that. And I'm thinking that these 3 loads should be kind of light, so not too bad for going over that steep hill by the steel mill. Alright, let me just double check to make sure that it hasn't shorted out on me. Okay, yeah, they can still hear my voice, so we're good in that regard. Now I gotta be, like, paranoid and see if I'm just, like, talking to myself or shouting into the void, because that's apparently what happened last time. Switch, so let's get that line back up with this. Now, the thing about doing this is you pretty much have to get turned around at the military base. Otherwise, you got to go down and turn around at the roundhouse, which isn't necessarily a problem, it just takes time. Whereas this junction with the military base is a pretty easy, like, Y to use to just get turned around. And then we go down past the passenger terminal and get backed up to the B lot and continue on that way. Actually isn't a whole lot here, so the military base is probably one of the best, most consistent ways out of here. So no mining equipment, no cars, none of that fun stuff. So we've just got intermodal containers and tanks. Not a particularly exciting shipment. I'm curious to see if little things like this will be fixed, because it's not really a problem, but it just doesn't look right, and like the textures kind of like bug out. Like there are supposed to be openings where the flange on the wheels go through, but there just aren't. It just crosses at an angle. probably the same thing right here at the 90 crossing. Yeah, see, there's supposed to be like a gap there, but there just isn't. It's just a solid piece of steel. And then those are actually going to the military base way up in the mountains. And we're supposed to be going backwards, but the locomotive decided, nah, I want to go forward instead. Yeah, June can't get here fast enough. Alright, we're gonna have to hit the brakes soon, because we don't want to love tap the tanks going 10. It would be cool if things like this were labeled. Like, I can only imagine that's a propane tank to heat up these Quonset huts. Also, it would be kind of cool to see other stuff like helicopters being transported. Tanks, trucks, jeeps, those are all really cool. But there's more types of cargo. Okay. Now we go forward. Actually, before we do that, let's do our now standardized practice of running to the back and making sure the air is tied in. In reality, there's this weird thing called an end-of-train device that does that for you. It automatically can tell you what the air pressure is at the back of the train. So you don't actually have to go back there and crack it open to listen to it. And then the cracking it open to listen to it is just something that carries over from me working with trucks. Now, granted, I do not have a double and triple endorsement, but that's legitimately part of the process. In order to see if you have the trailers connected properly, you literally go to every trailer in the sequence, and you open up the cylinder cock, and you listen to see if air is coming out. If air is coming out, it means it's connected. If air is not coming out, the air is not tied in, and you have a problem. So now you got something you have to troubleshoot. Although, having said that, the only one that's actually going to show air coming out would be the red valve, the emergency air valve. The blue valve will only have anything coming out if you're actually pressing the brake pedal. But it's worth noting that you would set the brakes on the tractor. Yeah, it's like you would set the brakes on the tractor and then release the brakes on the trailer, thus sending air through the emergency air line. And then you open up the cylinder cock to see if air is coming out the back of the last trailer. It only takes like a couple of seconds. You just crack it open. If air blows out, close it up and you're good. Then you can like flick your switch for your light test and all that fun stuff. And it's all part of the inspection of checking your equipment before you leave. Both pre-trip and post-trip inspections. All stuff you gotta worry about with trucks. Turns out, you still have to worry about those with trains. And apparently, from what I've been reading, the inspections for trains, the locomotives, and the cars are more in-depth than the stuff we do with trucks. But there's also more stuff with these. We inspect the same stuff on trucks, but there's just more of them. Like the coupling mechanism for a trailer is much more simple than the coupling mechanism for like a train car. Even comparing to the style of couplers that I'm used to here in North America, they still have more things to inspect. Alright. Oh, actually, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Because the last time that I was here, I went into the roundhouse to refuel my locomotives. See, it would not be hard to do this at the angled crossings, but for some reason or another, they just never did it. Let's apply some train brake real quick. I do like tanks. Even though I wasn't a tanker, I was kind of sad when the Marine Corps made the decision that we don't have tanks anymore. Because I knew a couple of people that were tankers. Which is kind of weird because I was in the air wing. But yeah, when they got rid of tanks and said the Army can deal with it, I was just like, well, that's kind of sad. I didn't go far enough. I don't need to be here, I need to be there. Don't play with trains distracted, people. You do stupid stuff like that. And that. supposedly one of the mods made it so that the switches are still spring-loaded, but if you actually use them, it damages the wheels. I don't know if that's a thing in real life. It was just when I was reading over some of the notes about the realism mod, I was just like, is that a thing? Does that happen when you automatically throw a switch if you cross over it? I don't know. But as I've said time and time again, I never actually worked for the railroad. I just built cars. And I wasn't even one of the guys working what we called the trackmobile, which it moved the cars around the factory. It had a dual set of wheels. It had like road wheels that it could drop down to drive around like a truck, and it had track wheels. It's kind of a cool thing to see, but kind of a weird vehicle. Alright, no, not that one. No, not that one. This one. Yeah. I do actually like how the remote tells you whether you're going forward or backwards. Because that's really handy information to know. Alright. Let's just bump into these cars. I can only assume that nobody lives in the machine factory, because these are just like staying, blocking the road. The railroad doesn't care. They're not worried about your comfort. Or even being able to move around the facility. Alright, now the next one is this section of cars right here. So we gotta be at this switch right here to get this lined up with the through track. We can ease off the throttle real quick. And nothing exciting going on in chat at the moment. Alright, now we're going to have to do what we did last time, where we're going to have to drop these off in kind of like that Y at the harbor. So we can back the tanks into the military base. Even though it's going to be kind of light, this is going to be a pretty good sized train. Is it this switch I need? Yeah. Is that through track? And now we gotta slam on the brakes. Alright, throttle up, release the independent. And let's bump into these empties. As it should be this one. Yep, B1. Right there. But it's worth noting that this job is going to be a little bit weird because this is just a logistics haul, so it's not going to an inbound track. This one is going to go to a storage track at the harbor. And I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark and say that this is probably going to the C track. Matter of fact, we can find out if it's going to the C track. I stand corrected. It's going to D. Where is this one going? Oh, they're both going to D. That's actually pretty handy, and it'll make it easy when we get there. But we'll still have to turn around in the Y. Or we'll have to turn around at the C track. Alright, now let's go to the back of the bus and check to make sure our air is tied in. The air is not tied in. Did I even open the valves? Nope, that's just a different kind of cars. Then where is this one going? Not worried about it. Alright, so now we get back over here. And we have this track, so we gotta get it back lined with the through track, then we go over there and get back lined up with the C track, because whenever we come out here, that seems to be the place we usually drop them off. And then all is right in the world. Alright. But unfortunately, it also means we're going to be taking these intermodal cars back to the D track, and the last time I did this job, I had the most bizarre string line derailment where 2 cars got like absolutely destroyed, and it cost like 10 grand in damage to fix them. Alright, past the switch. Awesome. Alright, now we pass this switch and we get aligned with the C track again. And I think we're only going like 16. Which, by all things considered, is really, really slow. Alright, let's slow it down a little bit. This might not be a good idea. We're just gonna let that go. Drop that on the ground. Good news, they're both going to the same side of the D track. Let me knock that off real quick. Break. And we actually have a viewer at the moment, so welcome. I'm picking up where I left off yesterday. Aside from the fact that I was unknowingly muted for like an hour. And nobody heard a single thing I said when I ended the stream. Which is kind of disheartening because at the moment the mic cut out, I was talking about a movie, but then it means they didn't hear any of the things that I said when I got to the machine factory, where I was talking about like the streaming in general and how I prefer to play these types of games on stream because this would make a longer, harder to edit video, and I don't particularly like doing it that way. So rather than editing a 3-hour video, I would just stream for 3 hours and then just export it over to YouTube, and it just is a much simpler process. Whereas the things that I make videos of would generally be like shorter time frame things that are easier to edit. Is, at least for my experience, the things that you record, however long you record for, you're probably going to do 3 times that in editing. And all of my Derail Valley videos, none of them are shorter than an hour long. So at an absolute minimum, that's 1 hour recording, 3 hours editing. It's just an insane amount of work. So for these longer type things, in my opinion, it's better to stream it instead of recording it. But with that being said, I don't want to put everything into just streaming. I still want to make shorter videos from time to time. Like, for instance, I would really like to try making a video playing a few of the first-person shooter type games that there are more people watching on Twitch, but I already have some problems just playing the game, so I can only imagine how much it would be infinitely worse attempting to live stream it. So I'll probably stick to streaming simulators and then just making random videos in between. Like, say I put out a new system or crazy vehicle in Stormworks, I'll still make videos on those. Stuff like that. But things like this, which has never taken less than an hour, even doing quote-unquote simple jobs, and Train Sim World, which every job takes hours, I feel better streaming those. Because the videos are long, they take an even longer time to edit. It's just better for me to stream those. Although we're coming up on City Southwest, so we gotta slam on the train brake a little bit, because this corner goes down to 30, and right now we're going a little bit faster than that. Alright. And my frame rate died. The really cool thing is, between starting out and getting to where we are right now, we actually have not used all that much diesel. We used maybe 1/8 of a tank getting from here to the machine factory, and we're not even at 3/4 yet. And we've picked up not 1, not 2, but 3 loads. And I commented last time about how it's weird that that sign is just like buried in the ground. Somebody went to town with a pile driver, and that's just what we're left with. Although, to be fair, once you hammer it into the ground, it's kind of hard to get it back out. barbed in such a way that they're hard to pull out. And then it's not this intersection, but the next intersection where I regularly have problems. But I've been having a pretty good streak of, if you just coast through here at like 20, 25 tops, you don't really have any problems. So maybe that's like the pro strategy to get through this area unscathed. Double checking that. Don't want to get 3 hours into a video and find out that, yeah, no one could hear me. Although, that being said, I should also check to see when he's watching in the first place. I've had mixed results the past couple of days. Like a couple days ago, I was doing the same game, and I had like 8 people watching at some point, and it was like the weirdest thing. Like, nobody in their right mind is watching this game. And then you find out, no, wait, no, there are a couple of people watching. Although for a little while I was doing 2, sometimes 3 streams in a day, all different things. Alright, all we gotta do is survive this turn without our locomotives coming apart. Forward until we clear that Y intersection. It's interesting because you look back and you're trying to keep an eye on where the back of the train is, but then I remember that I've got 8 empty flat cars back there. And they're kind of small and hard to see. Especially in VR where the resolution's kind of like sketchy. Because you don't want to have like the resolution up too high, because then it's gonna make your computer explode. Especially since I'm slowly making peace with the fact that my computer's kind of old. I've had it for a while. Like, it barely meets the requirements that allow me to do VR. So the fact that I can not only play in VR, but live stream in VR is like some weird kind of miracle that my computer hasn't, like, exploded. Which, to be perfectly honest, if I actually did get to a point, hypothetically, where I could get paid to stream, one of the first things on the list would be upgrading my computer. But that's a long way off, if it even happens at all. Alright. Coming up on Oil Well Central. And once again, we've made it through the crane braking curve. Although I can't really say that yet. My locomotives have made the turn, but the rest of the train hasn't. I haven't really had too many problems with derailing cars in that area unless I'm going too fast. It's mostly just the locomotives and sometimes the caboose. It's really weird when that happens. Alright. So we just keep rolling down the road. While we're getting beaten in the face with trees and foliage. Check on that real quick. Yep. Kind of finicky sometimes. I started using the OVR toolkit so that I could read chat messages while playing in VR. Except there's something weird about my internet connection. So instead of just showing me chat messages, I have like this never-ending stream of welcome to the chat things saying I'm connecting and disconnecting from my own live stream chat. So I found out that temporarily disabling my VPN prevents the weird connectivity issues. But after I get done streaming, I gotta turn the VPN back on because otherwise my connection becomes like erratic and starts like bouncing all over the place. And when you're trying to download like an update on Steam, it'll be weird. You'll have like this intermittent like pulse of signal where it's like, okay, you're downloading at 3 bytes per second, 300 bytes per second, 0, 300, 100, 2 gigabytes. And it's just like, what in the world is going on? Why are you doing this? I still don't know, but it's like the weirdest thing. Alright, coming up on the farm. It's interesting that these are set for 4 bar, while the updates for Simulator have them set at 8. Maybe it has something to do with how they upgraded air brake simulation. Maybe it's behaving more realistically. I mean, it would kind of make sense if they did it that way, since it is the quote-unquote simulator update. So making it behave in a more realistic way would kind of be par for the course. Well, the difference between this and the last time I did this job, I was dumping off tractors here at the farm, and oddly enough, there's tractors here at the farm. That might even be where I left them. Not exactly. But I did leave a cut of tractors here. It would be kind of cool if you saw like some consistency with what's being hauled and what jobs are offered. But realistically, I know that making it persistent, like say there's a finite number of cars in the game world, so there are only but so many consists, and they're all like simultaneously staying persistent in the world, would just become like a nightmare. It's probably infinitely better to just leave the area, have everything despawn, and then when you it's like when you enter the area again, have them spawn back with a completely random, procedurally generated set of jobs. It just seems like it would be like a coding nightmare to make the jobs persistent across the entire map. And pretty much the only benefit would be that when you pick up a job at City Southwest going to the harbor, when you get all the way there, you don't have to worry about doubling up a load on one specific track because everything's like synchronized. So that at any given time you would know that, okay, there's a load waiting at City Southwest that's destined to go to this track. Well, there's also a load going from the oil well that's destined to go to this track. So they would automatically know which one has a load on it or going to it, which one has a load currently sitting on it. But that's just unnecessary layers of complexity. So I don't honestly think that would be a good idea. It is kind of weird and frustrating when you get like a load that it's like a really long train, and then you get to the final destination and there's an equally long train sitting in its spot, and so you have to push one out of the way. And it may potentially mess something else up. So you just have to purposely ignore that job when you look at the job list. Like, okay, that's a shunting job, but I can't do that one because it's not starting where it's supposed to start. And otherwise I would have to dig it out from the train that I just shoved through it. And it's like the weirdest thing. So I don't like that, but the way that you fix it would cause more problems than it solves, in my opinion. Alright, so let's just try and get the heaviest part of our load up that hill. I'm not worried about the logistics cars because they're empty. They're 11,000 kilograms each. But the tanks are heavy. The containers are, well, they weigh something. So as long as we're accelerating with the weight, we're good. It would be really cool if they actually... I think they pretty much said they're going to try to do it, but in addition to the lantern, they want to make a red end of crane lantern that they want to be able to hang from the rearmost coupler hook. It's like from the rearmost hook. And at least in my opinion, it would be really cool if, say, they made the caboose a different color. Like, say, they make the marker for the caboose green, and then they make the, they put the end of crane lantern on the map and make that red. Because, like, functionally, as far as, like, the game goes, having a red light to hang on the back of the crane, while cool for realism and, like, an immersion type thing, functionally it wouldn't really do anything. There'd be no reason to buy it or use it if it didn't show up on the map, telling you where the back of your crane is. But with how much they've said that they're going to try to put a red lantern in to clip to the back of the train, it sounds like they're really going to try to do that. So that's kind of cool. And at least for me, that's something that I would certainly like to see. Not to the point where it's going to start going down yet. We're getting there quick, but we're not there yet. So just got to keep an eye on the speed. We're still in the portion where we're going uphill, for the most part. There are a couple of level sections here and there, but all in all, we're going up into the mountains. And then we had to cross through a mountain to get to the harbor. It is kind of interesting if you play the game long enough or consistent enough, you start to remember where you have your switches aligned to go. Like, for instance, the last couple of runs I've been going between the harbor, City Southwest, and the machine factory, so I know I'm pretty much good to go this way. Whereas if I pick up a job going to the steel mill, goods factory, or military base, I know that when I come around this corner I gotta realign this switch because I'm set up to go that way. And then, even though it's such a hassle to get up there, I really should try making a delivery to the food factory at some point. not using too much fuel, but we're like 5/8 tank. Not doing bad, but you use less fuel by not pushing the engine as hard. The ones that I'm really curious about are the new engine types, like the diesel hydraulic and the diesel mechanical. Like, I barely know anything at all about diesel electric, so throwing those in will just kind of make it interesting because they do the same job, but they do it a different way. And then apparently the diesel mechanical has a manual transmission, but I guess it doesn't have a clutch. So I guess the transmission itself can overheat if you don't shift gears properly. I don't know. Like, when I heard it was a diesel mechanical, I had to look up what does that even mean. And I guess I looked in the wrong place because I still don't know. It doesn't sound like it was a very widespread or commonly used system. But I know enough about them in general to know that the things that I've built in Stormworks as my personal locomotives, they are not diesel electric. They are entirely diesel because I built them wrong. In fact, they might actually be better described as diesel mechanical, because they are just straight diesel power with a geared transmission. Alright, now we start the hard part where we gotta start really monitoring our speed and alternating braking. Because the one time I accidentally let it get away from me a little bit, I had another string line derailment kind of in the middle. And it was when I like momentarily went to like 45 past a 40 zone. So it just caused some minor problems. Even though the speed limit says even though it says you can go 70, it's not even back by the end of the train that it said 40, so we're just going to ignore the 70 and just go with 40. And you get here and this one says 60, so you just don't know what's going on. Although, having some kind of a marker on the map telling you where the end of your train is actually would be really cool, especially when the DE6s lose the ability to be remote controlled, and you still have to wonder, am I clear from the switch? Can I back into the yard? And you either slap on another locomotive that can use the remote, or you have to look at your map to see if you're clear of the switch. And like places like the city southwest over here, the way that I like to do it is I go past it and then back up into the inbound track of the yard. So if I didn't have the remote, I would have to do it like I did it before I got the remote, where you pull forward what you think is far enough, you run back and check to find out if you did go far enough, and then more often than not you didn't, so you got to go forward, or you got to go back to the front, back into the locomotive, pull forward a couple more car lengths, and go from there. And then there's a lot of trial and error. And it would be cool if there was like a way you could see it on the map and be like, okay, the back of my train is right here, so if I pull forward up to this point, I'll be clear from that switch, and I'll be good. And unless you're using the caboose, you don't really have that ability. So you just have to remote control your locomotive and go stand at the switch and wait until you clear it. So that's how I've been playing it. But my way of doing things using the pair of DE6s here, it's not going to be the thing to do in After Simulator. Because I'm still curious to see how they're going to make it impractical to do shunting jobs with the DE6s. Because, like, even the real railroad has medium-duty locomotives with MU connections switching cars. Unless they're fully banking on the process of you can no longer remote control these, but you can remote control the shunters. So you'll use those for moving things around in the yard, and then you'll just hook them up to your MU DE6s for when you leave the yard. Maybe it'll work like that. Or maybe it won't matter in the slightest, and I'll still be able to use these. Just either turn them off or have them paired with the DE2 or DH4. Probably the DH4, if I'm being honest. Because it sounds like that one will be slightly better, like kind of an intermediate between the 2 and the 6. And then just remotely control the DH4 with these off, and then when I actually get done with the job, or I get done with hooking up my cars, turn off the DH4, turn off the remote, because we don't want to accidentally blow the engine on the DH4 trying to do what the DE6s are doing. So I just don't know like how the I guess the gameplay loop is gonna go. I'll have to wait and see how it all kind of like plays out to get an idea of how I'm gonna approach doing the different jobs. Because realistically, starting out, there's almost no reason to just do one job. You want to do multiple jobs so you can make more money. And the only thing that makes sense is you just have to back up to your multiple jobs using whatever your road engines are going to be, and then you just go from there. Whereas the alternative would be I assemble my 3 locomotive or my 3 loads with a DE2 and then just position them in such a way that, all right, I've slapped them onto the back of my 2 DE6s and we're just going to go from there. And then I got to get the DE2 out of the way. I got to get the DE2 out of the way and make sure the tracks are clear for the return job. And then I can pull out with my newly built consist attached to my DE6s. It just seems like that's going to be such a royal pain, and it's going to add like unnecessary amounts of time. And steps. So rather than refueling, repositioning, paying the environmental fees for the shunting locomotive, and then just having it separate from the rest of my consist, more than likely what I'm going to do is what I described earlier and just turn off the DE6s, slap the DH4 on the back, and just pull all 3 of them around. And then we just have whatever the weight of the DH4 is being added onto the train. Because without knowing anything about how the system's going to work, that's the way I'm looking at it. Alright, we need the military base. B7I. That almost goes without saying. Alright, what do we got? I should still be aligned with 7I. Yep. And the track's even clear. I'm probably going to regret turning off the throttle. Because basically all 3 sides of this Y intersection have like these weird bumps. That break things down and just cause all kinds of problems. So while we're doing that, let's go over here. And this is going down to the C track, because we're going to turn around. Yeah, we're going to turn around by pulling down the loading track and then backing up into the D lot. We're still going backwards, so we haven't been stopped yet. But it's only 4 cars. Alright, now hopefully we can clear past the gate without getting stopped. But I don't exactly have high hopes for that. Alright. Making progress. Yep, it's still going. Yeah, I don't want to get to the end of the stream and find out I wasn't talking anymore. All right. To hit the speed bump. That's truly the only thing I can think to call it. Except it's kind of like a diode sort of thing, like it has resistance, but you can power through, you can like force your way through it, and then it doesn't have resistance anymore. That might be the most obscure reference I've ever attempted to make while streaming. Or in general, for that matter. There aren't too many times that I find myself talking about what I learned as an electronics technician. I guess in actuality I was never too fond of the job. That's why I didn't put up much of a fight when I got voluntold to work in hazmat. And then I got back from my deployment and they were like, "Do you want to be the NCOIC of hazmat?" And I'm just like, "Yes, I do. Sign me up." And then I went through the process of making hazmat my billeted MOS. All right. We already know that is not how I coupled those. But whatevs. All right. Let's go turn this in. And this is going to be the thing that pays for this whole trip. Okay. Actually, not too bad. I say not too bad, but it was still almost double the time. But it happens. Okay. 22 is probably fast enough to blow through our speed bump over here. Yep, barely even budged. Alright, so now we gotta be over here. Now it'll slow down a little bit more. Alright, let's get the independent. Yeah, apparently just lightly applying the brakes gets the job done, if you're not going too fast. You don't need to go into emergency stop for just everything. If you're doing it properly, you can do it slow and careful. It's still kind of funny that there is no handrail, and it's just like this empty space. Like, they have the thing overhead that you can hang on to that, I would imagine. But there's nothing keeping you from falling off. Supposedly, in the comments and like the rumor mill on Discord, apparently they're gonna make the steps functional so that you can kind of walk up to them. Personally, I would like to see the grab irons do something so that you can hang on to the car and kind of like ride it around. But that's one of those things that's asking for a lot. Speeding up, but we got to be careful with that switch back there, because that one is notorious for slowing things down so much that it completely pulls in the opposite direction. It's like the weirdest thing. All right. It would be kind of cool if there was like a manifest or something that gave you like a rough idea of what you were hauling, but that's kind of like another one of those things that you just add it to the list of like unnecessary stuff that accomplishes nothing in the long run. Oh, that's why I changed it at the last minute. Because with the last job, all that I had left was like 6 intermodal cars, and they were all right there. So instead of hooking up to this section, I just went around to the other side so I didn't have to pull into the C lot to turn around because I was already at the other end, so all I got to do is just back up into D. Well, obviously that's not going to work in this specific case. And I'm hoping... Alright, we got 9 containers and not that many empties. So, although I need to get up into my locomotive because I need my job booklet and my map. Alright, so we have 17 cars. 17 cars will definitely fit in the loading track. Although realistically, all they gotta do is just pass this switch. As you can see, the cars are having a bit of a fit. Yeah, 20, 30 cars, that's a pretty good sized job for Derail Valley. Granted, it's not like 100 cars like you might see on the rails today, but it's still a pretty good load. Yep, that's barely even past the platform where you actually flip the switch to load the tanks. All right. Let's apply some train brake. Fully apply the independent. Release the train brake, put it in reverse, and see, we barely made it past the switch at all. Alright, now we gotta flip this switch, and we gotta flip this switch. Matter of fact, let's just get the remote. No, not that one. That one. Alright. Now we gotta be a little bit careful because apparently 18 is the speed limit that'll just blow up your train over there. You gotta walk on eggshells with parts of this game because you don't want to mess things up. Is sometimes the physics is a little questionable. And even though the sign says you can go 60, don't go 60. even though we can easily say we're starting the DVRT space program. At the end of the day, if something flies off the tracks, there are your hands on the controls, so it's on you. It's like, but my game exploded. Were you or were you not driving the train? Oh, we need to look at that. Alright. So, let's look at logistics hull. D5S. Oh, oddly enough, that one's empty. Alright, and put that right there. Let's grab this, and that's going to D4. Oh, so it's going right next to it. Oh, that's actually pretty handy. Now, where is my train? Thwarted by the switch again. It's forcing its way through something, but I don't know what. Okay, still 100. Nothing's broken or flown off the tracks yet. Keyword there, yet. The day is still young. Sort of. Alright, let's keep checking on chat. Get a drink real quick. Alright, making progress. Is that broke? No. That's another thing you gotta be paranoid about. Like, did I break it? No drug tests on this trip. Alright, so all we gotta do is just get the first empty car past this sign. But since we already blew the time bonus by like twice the amount of time it was supposed to take, I'm not even going to bother turning this one in right now. I'll just turn it in once I get the other one backed up, and then just turn them in at the same time. Okay. It's going to be that kind of a party. something with one of those switches just like insanely slowed down my train. Alright. 1 car length. Okay. And once again, that's not how I left you. But add it to the list of weird things. But that's probably on the list of things that won't be addressed because it's like, what's even causing it to happen in the first place? It's just weird. Alright. Now let's back these into 4i, and all is right in the world. And let's make sure we're clear down here. Oh yeah, we're fine. That's the sign for this track. We can fit like easily another 5 cars in there. Maybe only 4. Now I had this other weird thing that happened yesterday where since my mic cut out and it couldn't hear me talking anymore, the only thing it could hear was the background music. And even though the playlist on Streamlabs is all royalty-free, it's still flagged as somebody having a copyright claim, even though they allow it to be on YouTube. So it's not an issue, but it was just interesting how that panned out. Like, I've been using the exact same playlist for all of my streams. Why did it only pop this one time? It was just weird. It's not a problem because the people that own the copyright to the song allow it to be used for streaming. That's probably how it got added to the playlist in the first place. But it was just unusual the way that it kind of like played out. Gotta get back to we gotta get back to this switch to align it to go to G. Well, not this switch, that switch to align it for G. Because G has a through track, C and D don't. And let's not go 22 through here, because that just seems like we're asking for problems. Okay, you know what? We can turn these in first. Alright, let's grab this. Shove that in. Shove that in. No, not that. No, that and that. 12,000, 12,000. Not great, not terrible. That's what I need to do in Stormworks. I need to make a nuclear train. Because Chernobyl wasn't messed up enough. Alright, I did switch that one. Alright, so the next thing on the to-do list is to get these backed into the roundhouse, get them refueled, and then we'll go over to the office, pay our environmental fees, and we're good. Let's see, what do we got in the shed today? 74, 72, 71, and 19. Really should try using the Steam engine again. That one is pretty cool, even though it's a little more finicky to use. But the thing is, I don't know how to use it properly or efficiently. So it's always kind of like weird because I just don't know what I'm doing. There are videos I could watch that could explain how you're supposed to use it, but who has time for all that? I'm kind of curious with the day-night cycle coming in, if there are gonna be like noise penalties for if you're working through like the night in the game. Are the citizens of the harbor gonna get mad at me if I blow the horn at 3 in the morning and have noise ordinance? Let's not go that fast. It's so cool now that I know I can back both of these into the roundhouse here and have no problems. So I don't have any hesitation about using multiple units because I know at my normal base of operations I can refuel both of them. Alright, so alright, all we gotta do is just get the back one on this pad, and then we're good. We go up, kill the engine. Okay. Alright, turn that off, turn that off. Now let's go over here, turn this off. Walk through the wall while we still can. And let's fill her up. And we barely used half a tank. Not doing bad. Didn't touch the sand. Didn't use too much oil. But to be fair, as long as you checked the oil when you started up, you should be, or before you started up, you should be good. 10 grand, and we did not fuel up at the machine factory. Okay. Now we gotta keep a close eye on this so we don't ram this into the bumper. So I don't want to go too fast. That is what happened one of the few times I've actually broken something in the game. Alright, turn that off. Turn that off. Alright, now we go back over here and refuel this one. Should still be about $10,000. The good thing about using multiple locomotives is I haven't really needed sand. Alright. Yeah, it's about $60 more. And once again, not how I left you. Alright, so let's go pay our environmental fees, see what jobs are on the table, and kind of get an idea of what I'm going to do next time I play this specific game. Throw those in there. And let's see what we got here in the harbor. There's always some cool stuff here, but that's just insane. We'll look at that in a second. Alright, 550. Or almost 560. And $1.4 million. We are moving up in the world. Alright, I can put this away. Turn this off. Left it running last time too. Forgot to do like I normally do and reset it. Put that away. Alright. I mean, that's not a bad one. Argon going to the steel mill. Okay, now these might actually be a good idea. Hydrogen and ammonia. I feel like those would not be shipped together. Because, like, the thing about ammonia is it's usually anhydrous ammonia. And the whole thing is it doesn't have hydrogen. Yet you're shipping it with liquid hydrogen. food factory, food factory. Where's this one going? City Southwest, steel mill. Yeah. Alright, the scrap metal jobs barely pay at all, but no, not that. But these ones going to the goods factory are pretty cool. So that might be what I decide to do. Alright, well, I've been doing this for about 2 hours now, so that's as good of a time as any to stop. So I'm probably going to call it here. This has been Derail Valley. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.